If you boil it down, yeah, okay, a lot of Arcane's romances are really tropey. Childhood friends to enemies to AU lovers to couldn't save her, begrudging allies, lovers, and weird power dynamic to lovers, and twinks to soulmates. But that's an extremely reductive view of what they are, because their relationships are not just the fact that they're together, because despite it being this crazy action show with all this magical lore, all the romance still feels human, and that is genuinely impressive. For instance, I didn't think Time Bomb was going to be a ship. Like, I'd go as far as to say I was okay with the fact that it wasn't going to be, but then its inclusion in the show had skyrocketed it to something that I couldn't have thought it could be. Now, question for everyone, why did they cut all the Time Bomb scenes? Like, what do they gain for cutting the scenes between Acts 1 and 2, where Ekko finds Jinx after she gets taken by Silco and he says, hey, I'm here to save you, but Jinx doesn't want to be saved and tells him to leave. And this would be where the Boy Savior nickname comes from, which just kind of randomly appears for these two. Then in season 2, there's like 30 or 40 minutes of Time Bomb scenes cut from episode 8, which would have been just them being wholesome and painting over each other for the final fight. Would I have liked to see it? Of fucking course. My AO3 Time Bomb backlog grows by the day. But for the story that they were setting out to tell, I feel like letting the audience uncover this romance for themselves is kind of what makes the execution of the ship so good. While I understand that the theme Arcane is trying to push is that love is the cause of everything good and bad, and romance sounds like it fits to that context, but I just felt that Jinx's story was a lot more about familial love. She felt betrayed by Vi, was raised by Silco, who was a good dad but other bad virtues, then got a chance to heal her inner child when Isha came along. And before the second season, before episode 7 came out, I was almost sure that they weren't going to do Time Bomb. Jinx had already received the love that could set her on the path to healing, and with Isha gone, it would be up to her own strength to move on from this situation and heal. I just thought that introducing a romantic element to Jinx's story would lighten everything that had happened previously. So it is a stroke of genius that Arcane chose to let the fun part of Time Bomb happen in a different universe so that the message of mainline Jinx's character arc could stay intact and Ekko's could be explored further, because his character is the one that benefits the most from this relationship. Ekko is the only character in the show that is truly static. He has only ever cared about one thing, and that is defending his people. He isn't being greedy and looking for progress or stuck in the past with traumas that hold him down. He lives in the present, in helping people right now. So how do we challenge a character who has moved on from what other characters struggle with? We let them live out what could have been. In season 1, Powder turning into Jinx is something that Ekko has long since accepted. When he talks to Vi, he tells her that Powder is gone, that she's fully on Silco's side, that she's the enemy. And that's what makes the bridge scene so cool. Because while Ekko has accepted, yeah, this is Jinx and she is the bad guy, it isn't until the very last moment that he realizes that he was wrong, that Powder might still be in there, because that's not something Ekko would ever dwell on. He's good at moving on. So finally, in what is probably the single best episode of this series, the boy who has been surviving in the present is forced to come face to face with a past that couldn't be, in the future that never will, in a present that he can't have. So how does this improve Ekko's story? For one, it just shows us that Ekko is the commitment goat. That they decided not to have Ekko's second thoughts about leaving be a big part of this episode. This would have been a huge hurdle for anyone, unless a person might have looked and seen, oh, this is a world where I have everything. For the most part, all of my friends and family are alive. The country I'm fighting for is not just free, but thriving. And the girl I like didn't turn evil, and she's my girlfriend? We all would have folded. But Ekko, the man he is, does not even blink in the face of it all. It is only at the very end does he show a hint of changing his mind. Because for once in his life, Ekko has a selfish thought. Do you ever just wish you could stay in one moment? While he has been surviving in the present with leading the firelights, stopping Shimmer, Ekko doesn't seem like he's had a chance to think about himself. And in the show, we see that an overabundance of self-love or self-reflection has led characters down roads of greed and not being able to move on from trauma. And Ekko, for once, is finally confronting these feelings, but not necessarily in a way that goes against his character's theme of being in the present. This is best shown in the dance, which is animated in 4 frames per second. For big part of Ekko's character, it being the amount of time that he can rewind, because, well, in League of Legends reference. But anyway, this Ekko is supremely living in the moment. He's slowing it down, trying to savor every bit of it. The feelings of wanting to stay are creeping into his mind. 4 frames, 4 seconds to rewind this moment that he wants to replay over and over again. This might be the last time that he can stay here, but he's trying to retain all the lessons that this place has taught him, and all those lessons are because of Powder. As a momentary sidebar, since we're talking about the dance, I love that the lyrics translate to talking about them being enemies, especially because their first ever appearance together, and probably the first time people who don't follow League lore get to know that these two are friends as kids, is the song Enemy. And that's so cool. Physically, of course, Ekko goes home. But Ekko also leaves a lot more than we think in this universe. Symbolically, I think the other body of Ekko is Ekko leaving the person that he was before this experience. Before this, Ekko was someone who had a very rigid moral system. His firelights are his people. They're the good guys. Piltover and the camp barons and everyone that serves them are the bad guys. But after experiencing a better future, and especially after seeing how different his childhood crush is in this universe, he begins to understand that no one is objectively bad. There is always good in everyone, and that he might have abandoned a city and a girl that he cared about, but he's now okay with being responsible for them, and he knows that he can go back and save them. As you'll see in the other ships, they're all kind of representation of how the cities interact with each other. Ekko and Jinx represent the two parts of Zaun. Jinx is the corrupted part of Zaun, the part that the camp barons and Silco pumped full of shimmer and turned into dens of crime and addiction to fuel their own goals. Jinx is someone that Silco turned into a monster, and it takes seeing a reality where Jinx never became evil for Ekko to realize that this was never her destiny. She would have been a nice, smart, kind girl if Silco hadn't gotten to her. The same way that Zaun could have been more than what it was, just that greedy people, especially greedy Zaunites, have used their country as a stepping stone. So of course, the first thing he does when he gets home is to find Jinx. Now, to go back to what I asked earlier, what do we gain from cutting all these time bomb scenes? Well, by not having the rescue scene in season 1, this gets to be the first time in the whole show Ekko and Jinx ever have a conversation. So why do that? Why sacrifice the potential angst as teenagers to have this moment be the first time that they ever say anything to each other? And that, I think, is to symbolize two characters basically meeting, as Ekko said, pretending like it's the first time. Ekko and Jinx have been in the same scene as each other, but they've never actually spoken. If you think about the scenes that they've been in, it's the one where they're kids and Ekko rats out xander, and then when they're on the bridge, and this time only Jinx speaks here. We know that these two have history, but the first time they ever talk is as new people. In the scene before this, Jinx is coming to terms with who she is. She has lost everyone she loves, Isha, xander again, and now wholeheartedly believes that she is Jinx. That if she stays nearby, more bad things will happen, and that as long as she's here, no one she loves will ever truly be able to move on from this. This is Jinx at her lowest point, ready to walk away from everyone because no matter how much love she has, she will never not be a Jinx. Then comes Ekko, the boy savior, the last part of her past coming to remind her that there's still things in her life left to live for. He's here because he's finally able to see Jinx for who she wholly is. She's someone who's done bad things, but she's not a villain. She was never meant to be. She's just one more person who needs saving, because like it or not, they're friends, and that's what friends do. So this scene is the encapsulation of every interaction that Jinx and Ekko have ever had. He is the boy savior coming in her time of need. This is them pretending like it's the first time. Ekko gets his redo of the bridge scene. Let's pretend like this is the first time that you tried to blow us both up. And maybe this time, I can see you for the person that you are, that you're hurting, and we can talk this out. Let's pretend this is the first time that I'm trying to save you, because maybe after every time I've failed in the past, on this pretend rewind, on this second chance, I'll get it right. Because Ekko now sees Jinx for the person that she is, and he loves her, broken pieces and all. And I love that Arcane held off of putting these two together till this part because it let them go through their whole character arcs before finding love. I think there's this belief that people have that love will save them, that they are broken people, but once they find someone to love, they'll be whole again. But that is not what the scene is. In this scene, Jinx has already gone through her whole arc. She's learned the lesson of sometimes you just need to walk away to heal. It's just that she's taking that to the farthest extreme and taking herself completely out. Ekko arriving isn't saying, ah yes, with romance you are redeemed. It is just Ekko telling her that there are healthier ways to go about what she's already realized herself. As a side note, I really love the little details in this scene, specifically the fact that the IV on her face, I was like, oh, it's your reverse Vi, because in season 1 bridge scene, she has Vi smudged on her neck. It's because Vi is with Jinx when she's dying, I guess. But no, this isn't reverse Vi. This is the Roman numeral for 4, which is freaking Ekko's number, and the fact that Jinx believes that she's a fuck up and that she will keep cursing people. But Ekko has a device that lets him make sure nothing goes wrong. It's like, oh, that's so good. So do I think the time bomb scene should have been cut? Nah. But the show has done a good enough job of showing us that these two care about each other in the subtlety of their gestures and their designs. Ekko has an owl mask, one of the only birds that can see blue, and in their final appearance together, they painted over each other, and both Jinx and Ekko has a pink X paint on their chest. Like they replayed the game they did as kids, the ones that they did on the bridge, and agreed that they both found each other's weakness. In their first encounter since they were kids, Ekko stands dumbstruck at his allies get chompered. Ekko, who is calm and composed for the whole show, has a moment of weakness because he sees his once once upon a time best friend. In their fight on the bridge, Jinx is entertained by Ekko's request to play the game that they grew up playing. And mind you, she's going easy on him. Jinx is usually a really good shot, but when she can help it, she usually puts her gun mostly straight to aim. She only tends to angle her gun sideways in unserious moments. She does it on Smeech's goons here, and for the entire time that she's shooting Ekko at the bridge, in both their past memories and the present. The only time anyone ever takes up the same stance is Milo when he's fucking up shooting in the arcade. So basically, Jinx is perfectly fine trying to recreate the game that they used to play as kids and taking it very unseriously. And I think that's part of the reason why she blows up Ekko in the first place. She got the shit kicked out of her, and Jinx has the tendency to literally self-destruct when she feels betrayed. I'm sure that this is exactly what she's doing here. Realizing that Ekko would hurt her has scarred her deeply. It's the same thing with Vi when Vi hit her. It's another betrayal for her. So the crash out is kind of valid. Then the second time she blows him up, she doesn't even actually realize it's the real Ekko. This is the first time since the bridge Jinx is seeing Ekko. She could have well believed that he's another hallucination, maybe one that she made up to try to save herself. She hallucinates Isha protecting her, so why not Ekko? It's only until Ekko says something that is completely out of left field, something that she would never make up. It's always a dance with you is a reference only Ekko and other universe powder would get. That makes Jinx realize, oh, this is the real Ekko. And she changes her method so that Ekko doesn't get hurt. Basically, she cares enough about Ekko to make sure he doesn't get too affected, but not enough to stay. It's only after says this whole no matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new, that Jinx looks and clocks that the little monkeys in the Z drive are her monkeys. Now to Jinx, that's a significant symbol. The monkey is a symbol of her turning into Jinx. It's literally the weapon that she made that caused the death of her family. So to see it in a device that functions and doesn't blow up and has no offensive use means a lot to her. Now, this scene. I think it answers our debate of if our Ekko loves Powder and Jinx, or just Powder, or just our Jinx. I think Ekko, as a person, will always have an attraction toward Jinx/Powder. She is always smart, and they are surely always childhood friends who went through the trials and tribulations of life together. So the love probably always flourished because of that. And I think part of the reason Ekko falls so quickly for AU Powder is because of his pre-existing crush on Jinx. Now, there are some lines that our Ekko says to AU Powder to make their relationship kind of suspect. First, the line, "Your ideas change the world, and I can't shake the feeling that's who you're supposed to be." Two ways to read this. People have said that this is Ekko expressing what he's attracted to in our Jinx. The fact that Jinx, despite being evil, is a force to be reckoned with. She's powerful, and the things she makes greatly affect the world that they're in. And now that Ekko has realized that Jinx can be good, she can be a force for great change. But I don't think that's just the case. I think if Ekko realized he's attracted to things about only his Jinx, he would have declined to kiss Powder. So I think Ekko is just attracted to every form of Powder or Jinx, and he just truly wants what's best for her. That's why he expresses the fact that she's not living up to her potential, and he feels like she can. So ultimately, I think Ekko is in love with every incarnation of Jinx. It's just the thing that takes him back to our Jinx is duty. Ekko loves every version of Jinx, not just the good Powder version. He loves every part of her. That's what makes him going back so powerful. He would leave the quote-unquote better Powder for the broken Jinx. Because to Ekko, Jinx isn't broken or irredeemable, and he wants to not abandon her again. Because they say love is knowing that the other person is going to change, but even then, you love every version of them. The past, the present, and the future. And I think that's what makes the ship kick so hard. Now you could say, oh, Ekko's reason for going back is the firelights, but if we take a look at Ekko's priorities, the moment he gets back, he looks for Jinx. Mind you, I doubt Ekko is even aware Jinx is in a horrible mental state, and he still doesn't go back to the firelights, because if he did, he'd have a hoverboard if he knew he was just gonna run around Zon to look for Jinx. And also the fact that in Jinx's little Life is Strange game on the League client, Jinx goes to the Firelight base to build her machine gun after this dock. So from those two things, Ekko went to this Firelights second. His first priority was getting back to Jinx. And if that's not my lovey-dovey boy savior, I don't know what is. But to go back to talking Jinx down, through seeing the monkeys, Jinx sees that there is a good version of her. Combined with the fact that Ekko finally understands that people can be forgiven and can properly express that to Jinx, she can have a person from her past not haunting her, but loving her despite everything. And I think that is enough to get Jinx to change course. It could have only been Ekko in this moment that could save Jinx, and that is thanks to everything Ekko experienced in his time with Powder in the alternate universe. Which is a whole thing about how Jinx has been trying to protect Powder. It was ultimately Powder that helped save her in the end. But this is a romance video essay, so we'll just focus on the fact that Ekko's line of, "I learned from someone very special that no matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new, someone worth building it for. It's not something he learned from AU Powder. AU Powder never really built anything or had to reinvent herself. The person that did that was Jinx, someone who not only had to make shit, but had a very traumatic past and had to literally build a new personality to protect herself. And now that Ekko can see the full picture, he understands why Jinx had to do that. And he also knows that if she did it once, she can do it again as something healthier. And Jinx realizes the significance of everything, and it's enough to make her consider that she is worth saving because there is still someone from her past that recognizes everything she's done, but can still love her. Because to me, the sign proves that yes, Ekko has learned that he loves Jinx in every incarnation. He loves Jinx as Powder, and he loves Jinx as Jinx. And as long as she's the person that she is, Ekko will love her. So, to take stock, I don't think the extra time bomb scenes were necessarily needed because they already gave us great stories without it. I think this is one of my favorite ships because it's rooted in loving the whole person, flaws and all. I personally just like ships like Time Bomb, like this trope, that are characters who know exactly what they're getting into because they've known each other their whole lives and they know the other person's flaws and everything, and they still can't help but falling in love. That's a banger. But they didn't just execute childhood friends to enemies to almost lovers successfully. They pulled off a satisfying AU in canon. Just from a writing perspective, doing time travel is hard, but doing it in a way that is not just okay but incredibly satisfying to the story as a whole is on a different level. The ship was so many tropes firing perfectly together, so thank you Riot for blessing my sweetheart with this. 10 out of 10, would ship again. But on to ships that have some meat on them. Ships that got a whole show to develop, which is a whole different beast in terms of challenge. These two spend a good chunk of screen time together, and it's a testament to good writing that their romantic relationship isn't what defines them. It's just enough to make their attraction feel earned while still giving them space to grow as characters. I mean, what's not to love about a relationship where you probably should hate the other person because of everything they represent, but you can't help falling in love because damn, they're kinda hot! And they might not be like the other rich people topside, only to get slightly emotionally gaslit into becoming the very thing that killed your parents, and thus contribute to the system of oppression you so passionately wanted to overthrow in your youth. Only for the same person to betray your trust, rip your heart out, and call you a slur. Like, that's crazy. So this ship is actually a lot for their characters, maybe like 50% of it. So it hitting, it's ride or die for these two characters. And oh, they're hitting alright. Their relationship starts out more from a physical aspect. Lesbian disaster Vi is forced to help an enforcer who has the most snatched waist in all of Runeterra. And by going through the trials and tribulations of the Undercity, they bond and have the messiest lesbian situationship. Vi is a child of the Undercity who knows the damage that Piltover has done to not just her city but her family, so why would she trust Princess Pilty with anything? On the other hand, Kate is a sheltered child, and while she is trying to see the world, her trust still stays topside, and from her actions in Season 2, she isn't above a little classism, so they're kind of at odds for the whole time. The question these two constantly ask is, can I trust you? They're on opposing sides. The challenge for them is to see past the things that they've been preconceived with and see the person for who they really are. This building, breaking, and returning of trust is the undertone of every emotional scene that they share, and I think their trust in one another is shown in a really cool way because it's constantly shown in their physical gestures. In the beginning, these two are hesitant to trust each other. Their upbringing, worldview, and ways of solving problems clash not just in their words but in their actions. The fact that Vi is so insistent on showing Kate that she's not part of the world that they're in, so she shows how physically they're separated. Vi dangerously parkours while Kate is left carefully sliding down. Vi doesn't trust Kate enough to let her in on any of her plans, but Vi's one-man army facade breaks when she's about to be beat by Savika. Kate saves her, and because of her injury, Kate has to physically help and move Vi. This is the first step towards trust. In combat, Kate can have Vi's back if she lets her, but more importantly, Vi is allowing Kate to be physically close to her, and you'll see through the series every time they escalate their physicality, they grow in trusting each other. I'd also just like to note that they're more actions-based couple. Kate literally gives up her rifle to get Vi the healing potion, and her rifle is like her whole deal. Then, Vi realizes what Kate's plan is to deal with Silco, and trusts her enough to give a final blow that sends Vi's old house toppling down, and letting them escape. They're a lot better at non-verbal acts that confirm that they have trust in each other, and their arc is learning how to properly articulate the love that they have. Because in the beginning, these two kinda suck at finding the words to get them to stay together. At first you think, huh, these two might be okay. They talk in Kate's bed. Took me a while to figure out why the fuck they posted up like yin and yang, but it's two things. They're not exactly seeing eye to eye, but they're opening up and feeling safe around each other. And more obviously, they're in their city's positions, top side and bottom, because for the most part, there's a reading of this, of them being a representation of Piltover and Zon. We'll get to that later, we'll just discuss some things first. In the council scene, they revealed Silco and his plans, and most importantly, that Jinx is the person behind the attacks. Kate was hesitant to reveal this information, but Vi says she's got it with another non-verbal physical gesture, this handhold. Oh, and mind you, Vi calls for the exact thing Kate does to Jinx in Season 2. So you know, kinda soulmates, because if you're both not willing to compromise your morals for revenge, were you even deserving to be together? So when the council doesn't let Vi have her crackdown on Silco that she wants, she crashes out and walks away. Kate tries to get it to stay, and we get an iconic rom-com moment of our two lovers talking in the rain. Vi is still stuck in her belief that Piltover will never help Zon, that their worlds are too separate, and they will stay separate, because that's how Topside deems it should be. But Kate asks, if not the city, then what about them? As people, would they work out? A concept that seems to not matter to Vi, because this is the way of the world. They have to be separate, and as is the theme in their relationship, despite all their actions, they can't find the words to stay together. So then insert Jinx trauma scene and Death Mom scene. By the way, the only things that have color in Caitlyn's world are the color violet and Violet herself. Kate goes to Vi for comfort. Their previous disagreement disregarded, and they hug. Once again, a physical cue that they are getting closer and that trust is mending. But Kate instantly ruins it by trying to recruit Vi to the Enforcers. This was really out of touch from Caitlyn. So this is basically signaling to Vi that Caitlyn doesn't fully get her, because even after Vi shares all her gripes about the Undercity and how they're treated by Piltover, Caitlyn still wants Vi to be part of the system that oppressed her. And the pair splits up, and we see once again, Kate doesn't have the words to keep them together. Then, Rennie's attack on the memorial. Vi saves Kate from a Gemp punk grunt, and she helps her up. Once again, physical gesture, returning of trust. Then, one of the more interesting developments in their relationship, which you'll see grow throughout the season, they split up in a fight. Not because they wouldn't be a good duo, they just trust each other's combat instincts enough to know that they both have a different role to play in this fight, and they are better apart than together. They trust each other enough to split up and carry out their battle roles they are best suited for. After this, Kate opens up to Vi about her mom and her struggles, and in this scene, not only do we get Vi initiating the physical touch, but we also see that unlike Caitlyn, Vi knows what to say to keep them together. After Kate's crash out apology thing, Vi says, "We will put a stop to it," and agrees to become an enforcer, and this, I'm sure, means a lot to Kate. And it is 100% what keeps them together. The tidbit of Caitlyn Kiramon, a prim and proper social elite of Piltover, and eventually martial law general who seems so articulate and intelligent, struggles to find the words to keep her relationship together. But her seemingly brutish counterpart always knows what to say, and that is so fucking great. And it's made even better by the fact that the one time they have a physical encounter, Caitlyn beats Vi, Miss Boxing since I came out of mama's womb, daughter of getting jumped central, loses the only fight that she has to Caitlyn, sniper specialist Kiramon. And we see that these two really are idiots in front of each other, but they really do cover for each other's weaknesses. And just because they seem to be good at one thing doesn't mean they don't understand the other. Anyway, speedrun through the plot. They're enforcers and they find where Jinx is, and then Kate Vi kiss scene. Once again, Vi says the right words and Kate has never been good with words, so she resolves to just kissing her. Once again, another base cross in their physical relationship, symbolizing their trust, which their next fight showcases. Vi doesn't wait with Kate to peel for her, and Kate doesn't walk up with Vi to back her up because they know what roles they should be playing in this fight, and they trust that the other is competent enough to complete their part of the battle plan, only for the trust to be shattered when Vi realizes that Kate still hasn't learned from their badge incident. Vi cannot let Caitlyn shoot this, if not just the fact that Vi doesn't want Jinx dead, but also because if Caitlyn shoots Isha, she would make another Vi, another child who would have to watch an enforcer kill their parent, and that is not something Vi will stand for. And once again, trust is shattered. Caitlyn essentially calls Vi her homemade slur, and just as physicality has brought them together, it is the final nail in the coffin as Kate shoves her rifle into Vi's side. This is the area that Vi is always hidden when she lets her guard down, so you know she's vulnerable in this scene. And then Caitlyn just leaves, breaking the promise that she made with the kiss, and shattering any trust that they had. In the interim of this sapphic crash out, we get Kate getting it on with Maddie. Obviously, I hate Maddie, but I actually quite like this from a writing standpoint. First off, Maddie is a relationship that is easier for Caitlyn to stomach. She is from Piltover and a cop, and seemingly she's a perfect straight-laced goody two-shoes topsider. This is someone who societally it would be okay for her to be with, because of her status. It is especially a pairing that her mother would approve of, and after seeing the prejudice towards Vi, I'm sure Caitlyn knows that this relationship is a lot safer, but we can also tell it's not what she wants. This, again, is a physical relationship, and we can infer that from this scene, they went farther than Cait and Vi ever did. And usually, whenever Cait and Vi progress their physical relationship, they also gain trust in one another. However, Cait still looks unsure in this moment or out of it, and that just hammers home how unfit this relationship is. But still very telling to the type of person that Cait is to seek this physicality. So after blah blah plot stuff, we get to Cait ganking Vi and their plan to take down Ambessa. Again, the scene is a reiteration of everything I've said. Maybe this wasn't intentional, but what Vi says leads them to coming together. Not just the cupcake part, but the fact that Vi is here to save her dad, and Cait realizes that, much like when she tried to take the shot on Jinx, if Cait makes a move here, she would be making another her. Another daughter that would be hellbent on revenge because of a violent action against her family. So Cait finally makes a call to move against Ambessa. Once again, we see that these two trust each other enough to split apart and play the roles that they would optimally fit in. Now, while they didn't physically escalate their relationship before this rebinding of trust, Cait did consensually punch Vi in the face, so maybe that counts? Now, in this situation, Cait fully trusts Vi, but Vi doesn't trust Cait. That's why she has Jinx on Overwatch as a contingency. So we see that there's a disparity in the level of trust in this relationship, because Cait has broken a promise before. So how can she fix that? So now we get to the point of this entire tirade. The Thespian-like scene is an essential part of Cait and Vi's character arc. When Cait finds Vi, it's a mirror of their first meeting, but instead of saying words that set Vi off, Caitlyn finally has the words to keep their relationship together. You really think I needed all the guards at the Hex Gates? Is the culmination of every lesson that Cait has learned, especially in this relationship. Vi is crashing out. She's saying how she chooses wrong, and because of her poor choices, she loses the people that she cares about. But Cait swoops in to finally deliver a line to assure Vi that Cait trusts her and she's here to save. Those words are Caitlyn saying she fully trusts Vi. It was Cait's call to remove all the guards from watching Jinx. So while Cait might have her own biases, she trusts whatever decision Vi has come to about her sister, and whatever the result of that decision is, Cait is fine with it. Once again, they split up and are playing the roles that they are best suited for to make the decisions that matter, which Cait is finally able to fully do because she undoubtedly trusts Vi. And so, when Vi kisses her, I'm sure with the intention of, going further, this is Vi saying, oh, I get it, you trust me, I see it now. And so going up to this physical base is once again another bridge of trust in their relationship. But after this TV makeout, Cait's a little bit unsure. She has to tell Vi that she was with someone in between their fight, and now it's Vi's turn. She doesn't fucking care. She knows Cait trusts her implicitly, and just the fact that Cait trusted her to make the decision as to what happens to Jinx is enough for Vi to believe in their relationship again. Bringing up a relationship that she had in the interim is just icing on the cake, because Vi was already ready to trust Cait again. And to solidify that trust, they cap it off with the farthest you can take a physical relationship, boinking. It's also to note that during the act, Cait touches Vi on her wound, the spot where everyone hits Vi when she lets her guard down. Sevika did, then Cait, then Jinx just in the scene prior. So, besides the SIGs, this is another physical manifestation of their relationship, and Cait basically acknowledging that she hurt Vi, and them still keeping on going after that, just to say that it doesn't matter to them anymore. The parts after this are just icing on the cake. Vi and Cait split up in the final fight because, they trust each other again, and they don't gotta watch each other's backs. Then, Cait asking Vi if she's still in this fight. It has more connotation outside of their romantic arc, but just for the romance bit, Cait has reaffirmed that she knows what to say to Vi to keep them together, and Vi, as usual, knows how to reply. The dirt under your nails. A thing you'll never be able to remove no matter how hard you try to brush it out. They've finally reached the point in their relationship where they've grown past their mistakes and can finally fully trust each other because they know what it takes to love each other. This ship to me is the poster child for the two cities, and while Season 2 hella shaft Vi's screen time, I do think the sentiment of their dynamic is an example of how Piltover and Zon can coexist. Cait and Vi are two people who grew together, then after falling out grew apart. Cait, the representation of Piltover, soared to heights and left Vi to just clean herself up. But it is as if their relationship is saying that if these two cities can just find the string of words and the right actions and can learn to trust each other, that despite every betrayal, love can still flourish if you're willing to work it out. This was a ship they had to pull off. While their OG League lore gave nothing but conjecture and small tidbits to work with, the fact that they committed so hard to despairing in the first season means it had to end in a satisfying way, for it just not to be fan service. Given the fact that they made the decision for Vi to have a heavily reduced screen time, I think it's a testament to Arcane's writing that they were still able to do a satisfying end to this couple. On just the trope, I don't think I enjoyed this one as much as Time Bomb, but it is by no means a bad ship, just not a dynamic that I particularly enjoy. That being said, I must say that the Kate 5 fanfic writers heavily trumped the Time Bomb writers. I haven't finished it, but Run for the Cup might be one of the greatest fanfics I've ever read. But maybe that's because I just like sports stories, and has a bunch of league characters in it, so the world building is pretty fun. But it's still a really good fic. Now, for the writing, as usual, the ship is written really well, and I think it was the best one, but unfortunately, someone might give them a run for their money. I know it's kind of debatable topic, is J-Vic a ship or not? And I have my answer, but I think to get there, we have to start with Jayce and Mel. These two have a very interesting ship because the question of do they actually love each other is one that's constantly swirling above their head. As she's introduced, Mel is someone that is ambitious and she seems to want to use Jayce in whatever scheme she has planned. I was genuinely convinced that she was going to be an evil, greedy Pilty, especially because of what she was doing to Jayce. She is supportive of him chasing his Hextech dream, and she is constantly tugging Jayce towards improving Hextech and growing his business. All of this because she knows Jayce's inventions are the future, and she demonstrates that she has the ability to put herself close to Jayce and thus be first to capitalize on his advancements. And she knows that Jayce is susceptible. From the very start, all Jayce has ever wanted to do was prove that his inventions work. And he is so single-minded and hopeful that he can bring his miracle device to the world, for better or for worse. It puts the blinders on him and constantly pushes him in the direction that will help him take Hextech to the next step, because for most of his life, he has failed at making it work, and Mel is all too aware of all of his weaknesses. And since she knows all of it, she can wrap her fingers around Jayce. Because of that, there's this angle that you can look at this relationship where it's one where they only like each other conceptually, but not as people. That Mel only likes the concept of what Jayce represents. Jayce is progress, he is a way out of the shadow of the Medarda name, and Jayce likes Mel because she represents freedom. She is the pinnacle of society that Jayce was never able to reach before this point. To the other, they are the thing that they've been grasping for their entire life. And so in seeing it in this way, we can maybe assume that they don't truly love each other. But I don't think that's the case. The things that they do might not have been the healthiest from them, and they were sometimes immature. But they were definitely two people trying to help while also figuring out who exactly they were. And to understand that, I think we need to define what love is for each of our characters. Mel is someone who sees love as something that is conditional. Not because Ambessa didn't love her, it just seems that the way that Ambessa showed it wasn't exactly the healthiest thing. Especially with the fact that Mel believes she was banished from her family in Noxus for not living up to the Medarda name. You can see how this has scared Mel and made her think that she has to prove that she is worthy before she can receive love. So it's excusable that she gets pissed at Jayce for leaving, especially because she doesn't know what happened to Viktor. They had a good working relationship and just secured Hextech's future. Why doesn't this guy care enough about me to stay after I proved to him that I'm worthy? Is probably what she's thinking. But probably, more importantly in her mind, Mel still sees Jayce as a target, someone that she can use to climb the ladder of society and prove that she's worthy of the Bernarda name. It's only when Jayce explains what happened to Viktor, lays his head on her lap, and starts to trauma dump on her, does Mel soften up. Hell, she looks fucking surprised that Jayce is doing this, and I think that's because she's surprised she actually cares about him. Because Arcane's very tropey, but it executes its tropes to a T. I have no idea what AO3 tag Mel and Jayce would be, but I think it's something like manipulator falls in love with her victim and finds out she's actually a better person because of this relationship. Because let's be honest, Mel is definitely the one wearing the pants in this relationship, especially because she has so much more experience than Jayce. Anyway, after Jayce opens up about Viktor and how he's dying and how he's like a brother to him, Mel realizes that, oh, we relate on this. Mel lost Kino. She knows the pain of losing a brother, and that's why to me the line, "you should be with him," carries more weight than her just saying go to Viktor. It's also her regretting the fact that she was in Piltover when her brother died, and she didn't get to save the time when she had him, but Jayce still can. Then, when Jayce says, anything feels possible when I'm with you, it's him inadvertently answering her question of if she's enough for her family, because she has never felt like she could reach their standards. But the way Jayce talks about her, it's almost like she can believe she's this unstoppable force. I think it's because of these two factors that she understands what Jayce is going through, and the fact that Jayce is able to momentarily soothe her worries about her family, that she opens up to Jayce about her past, about her being in exile, because for once, it seems like someone actually understands her and makes her feel like she's enough. I think that's why Mel fights so hard to steer Jayce in the right direction. After this painting scene, everything she does for Jayce is colored by their previous conversation. Why she supports Jayce in ousting Heimerdinger in their next conversation when Jayce is schmexy and shirtless. She compares it to her family, how they kicked her out but she still loves them. Eventually, Heimerdinger will come around, but right now, Jayce has full control of his inventions, which is what he's always wanted to do. She's giving him the opportunity that she never got, the ability to succeed and still be loved and not feel guilty about it. Then some scenes that seem counterintuitive to Mel's arc. When Mel, Viktor, and Jayce are talking over Jinx's bomb, she suggests that they make their own countermeasures, seemingly to insinuate that they should use hex tech as weapons. This was before Ambessa came here, so there's this reading of the scene where it's Mel once again pushing for an advancement in hex tech so that she can profit from it. But I don't think that's the case, because when Jayce calls to go after Silco despite the fact that they have Shimmer because they have hex tech, they can make weapons, if Mel truly wanted hex tech weaponry, she would have just pushed for war, but she doesn't. Now I understand that this is because Mel has her own set of morals, but from the romance perspective, you can read it as Mel trying to keep Jayce on a straight path, but with caution. The countermeasures are not to be used aggressively. They should only be used to keep the people that they love safe. Our first instinct shouldn't be war if we haven't tried peace. All because she knows Jayce is incredibly reckless. And smart as he is, Jayce usually and did just dive face first into all of his problems and feels to think about the consequences. And Mel understands these weaknesses, but instead of exploiting it, she's trying to mitigate it. And that, I think, is the type of love that you can expect from Mel Medarda, especially because it's so counter to the style of love that Ambessa presents. Jayce, on the other hand, is someone who is just a lover boy through and through. He's like a little dog. If he likes you, he'll be as loyal as he can be. And when Jayce cares about you, he cares so very deeply. He experienced magic saving his mom's life, and he wanted to bring that miracle to the world because if it could save someone he cares about, how many more loved ones could it save? How many more lives can it change for the better? Viktor is someone that believed in him and his inventions, and because of that, Jayce has an unwavering loyalty to him. This, I think, is why he seems to fall so hard and so fast for Mel. She seemingly believed in his Hextech dream, which means she believes in him. And when you put your trust in Jayce, he puts unwavering trust on you. Until, of course, you pull it away. And I think that's why Jayce's crash outs that have to do with his loved ones are so valid. His mother claimed he was insane to save his life, and this is our first glimpse at how well Jayce handles betrayal. The Kiermans, I'm sure he understands. Certainly, he feels bad about losing maybe his only friend and his sponsors. But to be caught insane by his mother, the only other person that has ever seen the Hex runes and could believe in his invention, is a spit in the face. Yes, what she did was to save him. That probably was the right thing. But Jayce is an emotional baby boy because when Jayce has placed his trust in you, he expects it back. Because Jayce is the type of person to move mountains for the people that he loves. And because of that, I think that's another reason why he falls so hard for Mel. To Jayce, Mel is someone who's actually matching his freak. Because I think to Mel, these political games are nothing big. They're just things that she's been doing for her entire life. But to Jayce, it feels so huge, so it seems like much more of a grand gesture. But for right now, I think there's irrefutable evidence that Jayce and Mel took to caring for each other in their own way. I don't think Jayce constantly running to Viktor is a sign that he would cheat or that Viktor would be the party that made the relationship not work out. If Jayce commits to someone, he really commits. So we can debate if their relationship would have lasted, and I think Season 2 gave us enough of pictures to see how it would have gone. But also that, really, these two cared about each other's well-being and genuinely understood each other and took to heart the lessons that their relationship taught them. Mel literally makes a miracle to protect Jayce. He's the only one she protects. In the same way that Jayce attempts to cause miracles to save the ones he loves, Mel was able to summon the magic deep within her to save him because she cares about him. Then, of course, their conversation about being a passenger in her family. And Jayce telling her that she has never been a passenger. Jayce is literally the only person in the show that offers Mel solid, no ill intent compliments. And I think that speaks to, again, how much Jayce genuinely knows about her and believes that she can do anything. And if you see what I mean, you can see that Jayce and Mel might have had a falling out, if not soon, then maybe later in their relationship. And Season 2 gives us Jayce's class consciousness moment, and him seeing that Mel might have been lying to him the whole time, and that she used him and Viktor for Hextech. She refutes it by calling them wise investments. This mechanical, almost manipulative side of Mel is showing again. But while it wasn't phrased the best, I don't think she meant that with ill intent. Jayce and Hextech being good for the future was her plan, but it doesn't count out the fact that she did start caring about him along the way. But they both benefited a lot from this relationship, and I don't think that could have happened if they didn't genuinely care about each other at some point in time. The relationship was new, and yes, I think we can debate about if the relationship would have lasted, but I think these two genuinely wanted what was best for the other and understood what the other needed, but not how to properly really provide it. These two are what I think Piltover is like. that the rich are constantly trying to get more and more ahead, and that leads to a cycle of greed that can only end if they see the people that they're using as people and not just sacks of gold. Because this relationship is messy. It happened way too fast and had a very weird power dynamic. And I think that's the point. I think this relationship is meant to feel like that ex that you hurt but can't bring yourself to hate because they taught you about how the world works and you would be thankful for the things that they showed you. Because really, you can't let your girlfriend stop you from finding your space husband. Okay. The space husband bit was just for the cheesy edit cut to. I don't think that's what this relationship is. What I think it is like, you know the meme that's like, are they friends or lovers? And the comment under it is like, worse. I think that's what Jayce and Viktor are. They are the ethereal third form of love people can have because despite never saying it, these two are the most loyal motherfuckers to each other and they want to be together so bad they try to make miracles and literally jump through time loops to be able to be together. Their relationship is something more than friends, something that's more than lovers. They're literally fucking destined to be together or else the world ends, and I cannot just leave that as gay space husbands. There's a lot to unpack here, so just let's go through it. Jayce is very obviously affectionate of Viktor. He's always making motions to include Viktor and always giving small physical gestures that Jayce doesn't give anyone else. Gestures that show that Jayce does actually care about this person a lot. And I think the fact that Jayce cares, but it seems like he's always a little late or misunderstanding Viktor, are the reasons why Viktor tries so hard to get Jayce's attention in Season 2. Because I've been asking myself, why does Viktor care so much about Jayce? I get why Jayce likes Viktor, he was the first person to ever believe in his work and push him towards seizing that success. But Jayce seems to constantly fuck up in meeting Viktor halfway. He doesn't show off the refined tech stack they made, he doesn't realize that the undercity discrimination is affecting Viktor, and he's too caught up in working to really ever help Viktor in Season 1. For someone like Jayce, who is a little lover boy, he keeps messing up with Viktor. And I think the reason why people are so moved by J-Vik is because of the fact that since Jayce has so much to repent for, his love turns from loyalty to the grandest gestures possible, and Viktor, straight up, returns the freak. I think Viktor started truly processing how much Jayce cares about him when Sinnr came by the commune. Obviously, Jayce has been the one to stick with Viktor through thick and thin, but the thing that Viktor couldn't accept is Jayce using the hex core on him. He made Jayce promise to destroy it, and Jayce agreed to, but he didn't. He broke his promise, and it's ultimately because Jayce is someone who believes in a solution to everything, no matter how far-fetched, and he will hunt down those leads, especially if they can help someone he loves. But to Viktor, Jayce broke his promise, and so I think Viktor just straight up leaving Jayce the moment he gets out of the cocoon is so valid. It's just that when Viktor touches Sinnr and gets all his memories and sees the horrid, disgusting things Sinnr would do in order to do research to revive his daughter, he realizes, oh, all this betrayal is because this father genuinely loves his daughter. The same way Jayce betrayed Viktor and did this horrid magic because he cares about Viktor too much to lose him. And when Jayce comes back, Viktor deep down knows that the reason Jayce kills him is because he made a promise to destroy the hex core. And even if he's a step late, he's still carrying it out because it is what Viktor would have wanted. And that's why Jayce's ascended form is so sweet to me. Everyone's perfect robot form looks largely the same. They have the same size and shape and are all faceless. Same way their spirit bodies are just glowing gold wisps. But Jayce is just himself, his beard, his scars, everything, as if to insinuate that he is perfect just the way he is. Even his robot form gets to keep his face and his hammer. Now you might say, oh, but Viktor also kept Sky's appearance. No, he significantly changes Sky's appearance, and if nothing else, he takes off her glasses, seemingly fixing an imperfection in her vision. But he still leaves Jayce exactly as he is, scars and all, because to him, Jayce is perfect, exactly how he is. Viktor has accepted all of Jayce's flaws. They are two sides of the same coin, never truly one without the other. They are inextricably bound to one another. These two are literally the only reason the other is still around. Viktor saved Jayce from ending it all when Jayce was at his lowest, with no one left to believe in him. Here's just this random dude that said, I think your life's work could actually be useful, and Viktor has believed in Jayce since the first day they met. And you know the meme, nobody loved me when I was nobody, and then the other guy's like, I did! Except Jayce is very aware of that fact and treats Viktor with the same amount of loyalty. But we can also assume that if Jayce doesn't die to suicide here, he dies to his Hextech invention exploding, or he stabilizes it and eventually he dies to hex core infection. All of these things are things that Viktor being in Jayce's life would fix, so Jayce needs Viktor. The same is true with Viktor. We can assume that if Viktor never meets Jayce, he dies at around the time he would have in the show. It's only through Shimmer and the hex core that let him live a bit longer. If he doesn't die then, he'd off himself after he killed Sky. It's just that Jayce comes at the right moment to just talk down Viktor and save him. After Jinx's attack, Viktor is only saved because of Jayce. And while this isn't truly Viktor, I guess, he's still in there somewhere. Okay, technically, Viktor could have just never started the time loop. He could have just stopped there and just left it at that. He could have never given Jayce the Hextech rune and stopped countless timelines from falling apart, but he doesn't do that. Why? Because in a world without Hextech, they never meet, and he wants his baby boy. And you could look at Hextech, the thing that they spent their lives making, more specifically the Arcane, as the embodiment of their whole relationship. The Arcane is simultaneously self-replicating and self-annihilating. Just like they are, Viktor is self-replicating. He is constantly trying to find a way to survive, and is the person that initiated the time loop to keep replaying their lives until it came out perfect and they lived. Jayce is self-annihilating. He will constantly die, with or without Hextech. Either he dies as a child, or he dies playing to stop Viktor at the end of everything. And since they are bound, he's self-annihilating because he's always the person that is putting strain on the relationship with Viktor. Jayce couldn't save Viktor, and when he did it in a way that betrayed Viktor's trust. And when he finally has to do something, he ends up killing Viktor. He is self-annihilation of the time that they get to spend together. It is only after being inextricably linked and coming together as one that they can truly solve the problem that they made. And even if they didn't know it, it was made just so that they could be together. And dude, the show it has so many subtle nudges that say these two, they're just bound together by the universe. So the earliest one that's been around has been this stupid butterfly that's been following them around. It appears in both Jayce and Viktor's flashback scenes, and since we know that the mage that saved Jayce is Viktor, this is a very important scene for him because it's literally him saving his, partner. Almost like it's following their inciting incidents. Then it appears again here, after Viktor gets his diagnosis and he's contemplating his mortality. This butterfly is a thing that I'm pretty sure follows Viktor through his most important moments. Times in his life where he would have died, or times that made him who he is. Quite literally, a representation of the butterfly effect. It's certainly wholesome that half these moments involve Jayce, because shows how obviously important Jayce is to Viktor. But the butterfly is also, a representation of change, especially during Season 2's events. That's kind of Viktor's whole deal. So, there are only two other butterfly icons that I know of. One part happens in Season 1, when Viktor is experimenting with the Hex Core. Obviously, a very important part in his life, as it's the thing that literally keeps him alive, but it's also just one wing of the butterfly that the blood droplets make. The other half of the butterfly is one when Viktor and Jayce clash and the enhanced Mercury Hammer hits the robot's shield. Now, I know this seems like a bit of a stretch, but this incomplete butterfly is purposefully framed to complete the other. And both these scenes are Viktor's descents, the incidents that will lead him to losing his humanity. It is his failure to find a way to make him live that starts to tip him over the edge to becoming something less than human. Then Jayce not agreeing to work with him, and that beginning to tip him off the edge. The thing that is probably the representation of Viktor, given it is a symbol of time loops and metamorphosis, has appeared or is completed by Jayce multiple times. Them intertwining is literally Viktor's icon. Then there's the fact that in Season 2, they go through the same arc the other went through in the last season. More obviously, in the 7th episode, that Jayce breaks his leg and has to climb from the bottom of the Undercity with a cane and a leg brace all the way to the top of Piltover, and he has to do it alone, just like Viktor did his whole life. Then, Viktor is saved by a magical miracle and works to use the magic gift to improve people's lives. He succeeds and a city begins to flourish. All that until a magical anomaly comes to take him away, just like everything that Jayce had just experienced. To go along with the swap, they even swap color palettes to better reflect the other in Season 2. Jayce changes from a glimmering white, red, and gold that is so common in Piltover to dark grays for the final fight, colors that we more commonly associate with Zaun. And the fact that Jayce's blue eventually becomes Viktor's. This is the same color of blue that Jayce wears when he gets saved by Viktor, which is technically the first time they interact. It's the same color of Jayce's bedsheet, and then the blanket that Jayce puts on Viktor in Season 2. Since we know that Jayce has been sleeping in his lab, he could have brought it over, and this blue bedsheet is what Viktor wears as his Jesus robe up until the very end. Even in his freaking perfect robot form, he's still reflecting this blue. Since we're here, time to take a small detour to talk about biblical imagery because it's important. So one of the jokes is that Viktor has become Hextech Jesus, not just in looks but in goal. He goes from healing the sick to Messiah seeing what he believes is people's freedom. So obviously, if Viktor is Jesus, then in this metaphor, Jayce is Judas, one of Jesus' closest friends and ultimately the person that betrays Jesus and leads him to his death. Trigger warning for Catholicism. This may get a bit preachy, but I assure you this is just a literary analysis. Skip to here if you don't want to deal with that. So, I actually think this is a really interesting analogy because if they're Jesus and Judas, they're only at it at face value. If we're taking the biblical reading as Catholicism intended, Jesus is someone who is fighting for the freedom of humanity. With Jesus dying on the cross, he goes and opens the gates of purgatory so people can finally go to heaven. In dying, Jesus is a sacrifice for all the sins that we have ever and ever will be committed. Because now, if we die in the grace of God, we can go to heaven no matter what. Because God created people to be free, to have free will. But people are constantly abusing it and sinning. Basically, our freedom to do anything in life and still get the good ending has been secured by Big J himself. Viktor, at least in his ascended form, believed that perfection is having no freedom, in being uniform constructs that cannot have emotions or will, because these are the things that lead to human suffering. But the message of Arcane as a whole is that people will make mistakes, people will fuck up, and we need to have freedom to make mistakes so that we can learn from them and move on, but we are perfect because we can make mistakes. And that is why I think having this form of Viktor being the final hurdle is so cool. But back to the point, Viktor is only Jesus in appearance. He's almost an antithesis to what Jesus has been trying to achieve. So this thing is a whole inversion of that story, because Jayce is also an antithesis to what Judas is. Judas' betrayal was a selfish one. He sells out Jesus because of greed. But Jayce has no ill intention when he kills Viktor. Jayce knows that if Hextech keeps going, it will result in the ruined world that he saw. And he did promise Viktor that he would destroy the Hex Core. So he's carrying out his job. Stop Hextech from ending the world and destroy the Hex Core. This happening is Jayce's sin more than anything. Hextech going unchecked and his need to revive Viktor, despite knowing that the Hex Core could be evil, is all because of Jayce's style of love. And of course, because of his action, the price he has to pay is killing his best friend to get the job done. There is no greed here from Jayce, and this isn't necessarily betrayal because he's already betrayed everyone with his past actions. The things he does in Season 2 are him finally keeping his promise and finally making things right after all the bad he's done. Okay, that was a yap. So let's just start wrapping this up. Jayce and Viktor's foundation has just been that their lives are better when they're together. I think they both separately realize this when they're apart, seeing as Jayce is absolutely a boy failure at his job, and none of Viktor's inventions go right without Jayce. And they both have such extravagant ways of saying, hey, I fucked up, but I miss you. Can we hang out? When Jayce breaks his promise to Viktor and goes against Hammer's advice and uses the Hex Core to revive Viktor, this, by the way, is the only time the Hex Core actually works, because Viktor's already worked on it, but now that Jayce has worked on it, it actually does what it was supposed to do. So again, their inventions only work when they're together. Anyway, this is Jayce going, I fucked up, but I cannot bear to lose Viktor, so I will once again pull a miracle out of thin air to revive him. So no matter what the consequences are, I'm doing it. Then, when Jayce is crashing out in the bad timeline, he seemingly is forgetting both Mel and Viktor's faces. Putting both your lover and your brother on the same plane is fair enough, I guess. But to me, that just either means Mel means enough to Jayce as the years he spent getting to know Viktor, or Viktor equates to Mel in some way. But that's just kind of a meh discussion. Point is, these two are comparable in Jayce's mind. But if Jayce's comparisons are bad, Viktor is so much worse, and there's always a poor woman caught in crossfire of these twins and their bromances. So let's first talk about Skye. I'm convinced that she was the thing that helped complete the Hex Core. So in League, like the shitty game that I've played for the last 8 years of my life, there are 5 runes: Sorcery, Domination, Precision, Resolve, and Inspiration. The first 4 are present on the Hex Core, but Inspiration is the only one missing. In League, the Inspiration rune is this light blue turquoisey color, the same color as Skye's notebook, and when they're in Viktor's astral plane, it's the same color that they take on. So, I'll give you the fact that Skye kept Viktor's humanity intact by completing the Hex Core. So, when Skye gets taken out, Viktor completely loses his humanity, and it's only when Jayce gets added back that Viktor is once again able to be human. But, as previously said, now all I'm gonna say about it is Viktor significantly changed Skye while Jayce stayed the same. Jayce was already enough to complete Viktor in his normal form. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't end there though. Viktor pulls all the stops when asking Jayce to join him before their final fight, going as far as to appear as close to Mel as he can. Now, Mel and Viktor have a lot of comparison shots, in the way that they look at Jayce after Mel wakes up alone and Viktor wakes up dying, but none of those were Viktor's doing. It's just the show making us see these parallels. This is a very heavy-handed comparison that, if it was Viktor's intention, is kind of sus. Viktor, in one of his perfect robot forms, walks into the room to ask Jayce to join him in the dark side. Just a shot. Just how Viktor holds himself and how the robot's light form and the white and golds and how it like walks. This is exactly as Mel walked into the scene. And this is most definitely intentional because Viktor's robot was posted up somewhere in this room. He was just watching them as they walked in and had this talk. So he knows exactly what he's doing. It's almost as if Viktor's asking, now that we share the same form, am I good enough for your time, Jayce? And that's just kind of crazy, isn't it? But ultimately, can you blame them? There is no one in the entire series that gets each other as much as Jayce and Viktor do. What Jayce says when they're about to space explode is the perfect cap to Viktor's story. Viktor has always felt like he was less or imperfect because of all the flaws that he was born with. Jayce has never seen Viktor as the flaws that he's seen himself as. To Jayce, Viktor is just the whole man that he is. His partner, the only person that could have ever completed the Hex deck, the person that believed in him when no one else would. And now that Viktor has fully realized that, I'm sure they would have wanted to stick together for the rest of their lives. These two have to be soulmates, because if they aren't, the world just ends. Of course, Jayce could have never used the Hex core and thus never caused all this drama, but he doesn't want to lose Viktor, so he would have never done that. Of course, Viktor could have just ended the time loop, but he didn't want to lose Jayce, so he would have also never done that. You can debate the morality of their actions, but they understood that nothing else in their lives mattered if they weren't together. Not the thing that they worked their lives to make, not Hextech, not the cities, not their other relationships. All that mattered to both of them is that they still had each other. And the only timeline they ever have that, they ever have each other, is when they become this magical entity and destroy their life's work. All of this effort to be together. Both sides going miracle for miracle to be with each other, and all the subtle and not subtle gestures of love. This, to me, you have to admit, is more than brothers and more than lovers. It is the trope of soulmates taken to its most satisfying extreme. And this actually fixes a lot of the things that I was bothered by the soulmate trope. Like, soulmates is like, once you are on this earth, there's just someone that is going to love you, no questions asked. They are your soulmate and you're gonna fit together like two peas in a pod simply because the universe said, you know what, these two. Yes. But JVIC is a ship where they have to build their soulmate bond brick by brick. It takes work. It is not the universe deciding that they should be together. They literally conquer every limiter of relationship, death and time, to be together forever. And all of that, I think, pales in comparison to what people would consider platonic or familiar or romantic love. This ship genuinely looks you in the eye and asks you to consider what love is, and if the words that we use to describe love are enough to fit every form of love that can be experienced, because from whatever this is, seems like it isn't. Romance is this weird thing, and if you like shows that treat it lightly, I'm in the same boat as you are. Sometimes you just need a little dopamine kick. But it also happens that sometimes you get shit like this that reminds you that it can be more than just something cutesy. In some weird way, despite all the magic BS, becoming dictators and ascending to godhood, Arcane captures the very human aspects of love. How messy it is, how much you need to know about yourself and especially your partner to make it work. And how sometimes it just simply doesn't work out because of life. But that doesn't mean it wasn't important to who you became. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day, motherfuckers. Sorry if this was such a yap. I tried my best with the graphics, so if it was too much, let me know. If anybody wants to like movie posters, I'll put up the HD files on my Patreon at Heartstuck IRL when I remember to do it, because like I'm kinda like lazy after making this video. But anyway, if you're watching this and you're single, me too, bro. If you're watching this with your significant other, just go fuck yourselves. And if you're watching this with your situationship, if you all really just sat through an hour of an Arcane video essay together, just kiss or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see y'all later.